So, what do the Leafs do now? I'm Steve Dangle, let's talk about it. So, the Leafs lost to the Florida Panthers. We already know that. Some of you probably cringed the moment the words left my mouth, and I'm sorry. The Leafs also got rid of Brendan Shanahan. He won't be back, and now it's Keith Pelly in charge. There is no president, it's just Brad Treliving and then the CEO of MLSE. And a lot of your eyes glazed over and you're like, Steve, I don't even sort of care. And you're right, I get it. You care about what this team looks like on the ice. You care about a winning team. You care about a team that can win the Stanley Cup. You care about a team that could still be playing right now, but they're not. Hence all the change. And we've already heard 100 times, oh, Marner's probably not coming back. Marner is almost certainly not coming back. All right. Well, you don't win a Stanley Cup with the players not on your team. So what are some of the questions that we gotta ask going forward with this team, and how do we start to answer them? Number one, what do they got? Well, they're gonna have a ton of holes on the roster. How do you fill those holes? We'll start with the good news, and then we'll go to the bad but not as bad as I thought news. The good news is, according to puckpedia.com, the Leafs have 25.71 million in cap space heading into next season, and that is with the cap going up. Like as in it's going to go up next season and the season after and the season after. So even if you're a cap team next season, you should still have some space the season after and the season after. So yeah, you lose Mitch Marner. You might lose John Tavares. We'll see what happens there. Maybe he just stays at a discount. You still have so much space. You can use that in free agency. You can use that in a trade. You could use that to retain and be a facilitator for a trade and maybe get a draft pick as compensation, and then you could use that at the draft to trade for someone or even draft someone. So many options. It's great. It's great to have options. Now, one thing that I've said is now that Brendan Shanahan's gone, he hasn't exactly left this team in the best position going forward. And what I mean by that is with draft picks. Listen, draft picks don't win Stanley Cups. They're magic beans. But draft picks also really help you win Stanley Cups. The problem is you have to use them well. You have to draft guys who are really good. You have to draft guys who can help you now. Or you send those picks out the door, and they gotta be for players who help you immediately. So here's the bad news, like the really bad news. The Leafs don't have a first-round pick in 2025. They don't have a first-round pick in 2026. The Leafs don't have a first-round pick in 2027. The Leafs don't have any first-round picks until Austin Matthews is a free agent. Do you understand? Now, that's unfortunate, but the Leafs actually do have more picks than I thought. The Leafs do have a second-round pick this year. They also have a third-round pick this year. They don't have a fourth, but they have 2 fifths. They also have a 6th and a 7th. 2026, they don't have a first or a second. That's tough. They have a 3rd, no 4th, a 5th, a 6th, no 7th. Yeah, 2026 is painful. 2027 is kind of a few drafts away. It's 3 drafts away. You don't have your own first, but you do have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 2 6th, and a 7th. So that's okay. The prospect pool is tough. You have Easton Cowan, who might make your team next year. You have Ben Danford, who is, I keep saying this word, he's a nail gun. I just don't know how far down the line he helps you. And then outside of those two, oh boy, it's a bunch of darts. Like you are just blindly throwing them at the board, hoping to hit any part of it. Before I get into specific names, here's what I would like this new look Leaf team to do. Get creative with your trades. Too much buying and selling, and it's been mostly buying, and as you can see, the bill has come due. You trade a first-round pick and Nikita Grabenkin for Scott Laughton. You trade a first-round pick and Fraser Minton for Brandon Carlo. And yeah, you get Brandon Carlo, retain salary, cost control. You get Scott Laughton, retain salary, cost control. I'm not even necessarily lamenting those deals. I'm just saying, if you want to buy, you don't have a ton of money. You're going to the store with a bunch of nickels and dimes. You haven't even made it to the cash yet, and the cashier already looks like they hate you. Hockey trades. The Leafs have to make hockey trades. So, let's go forward with an assumption. Mitch Marner's gone. There's $10.904 million against the cap that is freed up, but you also got to make up over 100 points. He's kind of important, not to mention played on your power play, played on your penalty kill, and was a very important part of both. I look at a guy like Brock Besser, who is not like Mitch Marner, in my opinion, but he's a really good player and a really good right winger. Here's the problem. My bet is he's going to make too much, like over $8 million. But the reason his name comes up, the Leafs need gamers. The Leafs need guys who elevate their game in the playoffs, and Besser is a monster in the postseason. The Leafs also need guys who score. They do not score in the postseason. Brock Besser scores! But that brings me to something that hasn't made sense about the Leafs for a long time, and I haven't found the right way to articulate it. The Leafs signed John Tavares for $11 million back in the day. He was a UFA center at the top of his game in the prime of his career. That was a lot of money at the time, but that made sense. And it gives you a 1-2 punch of John Tavares, Austin Matthews. That's insane. And over the past several years, that duo has been insane. Year in and year out, giving you 80, 90, close to 100 goals. Just them two. But then on the right wing, you have a $10.904 million player in Mitch Marner and an $11.5 million player in William Nylander. And I guess my question is, what Stanley Cup winning team builds their roster from the right wing? There are Stanley Cup winning teams, Stanley Cup contending teams who have really strong right wings, but that's not the backbone of their team. And this past season, the Leafs spent over $22 million on their top two right wingers. Well, it'd be nice if the Leafs depth show up. The reason the Leafs depth doesn't show up is all the money goes to four dudes. We've been talking about this. Pay attention. So what I'm wondering is if the Leafs need to spread the wealth a little bit. I'll tell you a target that isn't going to be popular, but I promise you will warm up to it. Jamie Benn. Here's the difficult thing with Jamie Benn. At the time that I'm shooting this, he's in the Final Four of the playoffs. We like that. In 16 games, he has 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points. That's obviously awful. But his regular season was better than I thought. On a disgustingly deep Dallas team, but nonetheless, pay attention. In 80 games, he had 16 goals, 33 assists for 49 points. The year before, he had 60. The year before, he had 71. Oh, he's on the decline. Well, that's what we thought during the 21-22 season when Ben only had 46 points and 18 goals. The Leafs' left wing was a weakness this year, a decided weakness. They had Matthew Nyes, and then who else? Bobby McMahon was able to chip in 20 goals, yeah, but they really were reluctant to put him in the top 6 for any extended period of time. There was Max Pacioretty, who ended up playing on the left wing to some success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He didn't even reach 40 games played this past season. There's Nick Robertson. He was mostly on the right, didn't really play the left. There was Calle Järnkrok. He can kind of play both wings in a mediocre way. Steven Lorentz can play both wings. He played a lot on the left, but that is a depth forward, maybe strictly fourth line. Listen, a few years ago, Jamie Benn at the beginning of the season basically ruined Austin Matthews' season with a cross-check. The dude is 6'3", over 200 pounds. He is a dirty player. He's dirty, straight up dirty, and he's mean. And he's got an FU attitude, and he's exactly what this team has lacked. Now, in July, he'll be turning 36. That renaissance in his career that he had a few years ago, does he have another one in him? And if he doesn't, can he still be that 45-ish point guy? Can he still be a 15 to 20 goal-ish guy? Can he still be a jerk? And can he do it for a relatively cheap price? Would he sign here? Well, this is the difficult thing with talking about free agents. I don't know. His brother signed here, and he seemed like a popular Leaf in the dressing room when he was here. Jordy. Remember Jordy? Jamie Benn is a name I would keep an eye on. Another left winger, and another one that I don't think a lot of people watching this video are going to be enthusiastic about, is Chris Kreider. You know him. 6'3", 230 pounds, longtime Ranger, scored 50 goals once. Well, if you watch this past season, you know that 50-goal Chris Kreider is in the rearview mirror. He was awful on an awful Rangers team this year. But I don't think good players just forget how to play hockey. You tell me if this makes sense to you, okay? On the President's Trophy winning New York Rangers, that was 2 years ago, he played all 82 games. He had 39 goals. He had 75 points. Last season, he played 68 games. 22 goals still somehow. Only 30 points. The man had 8 assists. 8 down from 36. He had less than a quarter of the assists this season that he did last. Here's the one thing that we know the Leafs aren't afraid of. Projects. Max Pacioretty was a project. That dude used to be pretty automatic for 30 goals in a season. Very consistent performer. What happened? Well, he suffered 2 very serious, often career-ending leg injuries. And both of them happened to him. You only get 1 career, and he had 2 career-ending injuries. Well, he comes to Toronto, and he decides, I'm going to change my game. I'm going to pulverize people, and I'm going to chip in the occasional goal, get a few assists. The man had a series-winning goal against Ottawa. The list of players to come to the Leafs over the last few years to try to rehabilitate their broken bodies, because Kreider was broken, is kind of impressive. There's only one that really didn't work out at all, and that's Yanni Hakanpää this past year. He was basically a professional practicer with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's what I would say with Chris Kreider. We know he's available from the New York Rangers. They don't want him. If the Leafs were able to get him for a reasonable price, is he 39 goal, 75 point guy anymore? I'm going to bet no. Is he better than 22 goals, 8 assists, 30 point guy? I would bet an emphatic yes. And some people are going to be like, oh, you didn't see him this past season. I did. He looked busted. What can a long off season and working with the Leaf sports science team do for a player like that? Another one that I don't think you're going to like to hear. The Leafs aren't getting Sam Bennett. This dude's agent is Darren Ferris. That is Mitch Marner's agent, and he is heading into this summer as the hottest center available. He might screw around and win a Conn Smythe trophy. If you think he is coming to Toronto for anything less than $11 kabillion, you are wrong. What about Brock Nelson? I don't think he's coming here either. Which leaves you with John Tavares. There are other options. There's a guy like Matt Duchene, who is not having a very good playoff right now. Yes, his team is still in it, and that's better than any Leaf can say, but he has not been great. Then you have John Tavares. He played 75 games this past year with the Leafs. He scored 38 goals this past year with the Leafs. He had 74 points with the Leafs. Dude, those are Chris Kreider from 2 years ago numbers. Almost identically. It's crazy. Literally 1 goal off. And he did it in fewer games, so he's actually at a better rate. Listen, you're thinking about John Tavares, the $11 million player. What if he comes back on maybe a salary deferred kind of deal and he makes 6.5? What if he makes 6? What if he makes 5.5? What if it's 5, guys? 5 guys. Listen, I am not on team run it back. I've been pretty emphatic about that, but at some point, you gotta look at this with logic here. It's running it back with the same players at the same money that makes no sense. If Mitch Marner agrees to come back to the Leafs for $4 million a year, you sign him. Well, he's not doing that. He wants like more than triple that. All right, so what else we got? Well, you have an opportunity to get JT for around half of what he made this past year. Was he worth $11 million this past year? No, probably not. Was he worth 5.5? It would have been one of the biggest sweetheart contracts in the NHL, yeah. If there was a player available who scored almost 40 goals this past season, almost 75 points this past season, and they wanted to come to Toronto and they wanted to do it for half of what John Tavares made, you would sign that player. Okay, well, you can sign that player, but there's just one catch. It is John Tavares. Then there's Matthew Knies. A lot of people are talking about offer sheets with him. I just don't think it's a concern. I don't think he's going to sign one, and even if he does, I think the Leafs are going to match it. There's no way. Just the compensation that a team would have to give the Leafs, it doesn't make sense. They're not going to lose this player. It's not Dylan Holloway. It's not Philip Broberg. Those were 2 players in a unique situation, and the Blues took advantage. That's not going to happen here. You know what the Leafs have right now that the Oilers didn't? $25+ million in cap space. So let's say Knies makes $7.5 million on his next deal. It's an 8-year, $7.5 million deal. That's roughly reasonable. Signing Matthew Knies to a $7.5 million contract per season still leaves the Leafs with about $18.2 million in cap space. Okay, but who do you sign on the back end? They actually don't need to sign anybody. Literally every Leafs defenseman, including some in the minors, are locked up next season. Chris Tanev, Jake McCabe, Morgan Riley, Brandon Carlo, Simone Benoit, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Philip Myers, Who's the other guy? No, it's not Yanni Hakanpää. Shut up. Oh, Marshall Rafai. How could I forget Marshall Rafai? The Leafs could absolutely go out and make changes and make trades to their back end, but there's no immediate hole there that needs to be filled. Okay, well, what about net? Joseph Wool's under contract. In fact, his contract's only just starting. He signed an extension months ago, and it's only kicking in next year. Well, next year, July 1st. Oh, well, what about Anthony Stolarz? They got another year at $2.5 million. Joseph Wool is going to make $3.66. Anthony Stolarz is going to make $2.5 million. That is unreal. So, okay, all right, let's work with this then. Okay, we want to build a different team. We do. But we don't have to make any changes in net. The goalies were good, and they're cheap, and they're locked up. There's the D-core, and maybe some improvements can be made to the D-core, but it's at very least adequate, and they're all locked up. There's literally no holes there, okay? You could explore trying to trade Morgan Riley, and we'll get to that, but you don't actually have to do anything there. You sign Matthew Knies, that's priority one, okay? You still have $18.2 million to work with, okay. So what do we have here? Let's look at the playoff roster they have. Knies, Matthews, Hole. No, not Justin Hull, like Hole. There's a hole there in the roster. Okay, it's a gap on your top line, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. How's line 2? Hole, William Nylander. Okay, well, we'll get there. Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, potentially a hole, but Nick Robertson is still a restricted free agent. Okay. And your fourth line, there's actually no real holes there. Steven Lorentz is a free agent, and I really want him back. I just like that player. Robertson's a restricted free agent. Maybe now's when you trade him. You need goals, though. What a frustrating player. Pontus Holmberg is a restricted free agent. Maybe you trade him. David Kampf is signed on a terrible contract, but you can use him. Calle Yarncroke is signed on a not great contract, but you can still use him. Calle Yarncroke's so frustrating. During the regular season, he can give you 15 to 20 goals. We know this because we've seen him do it. But he has 5 career Stanley Cup playoff goals in over 100 career Stanley Cup playoff games. That is the definition of a player the Leafs do not need. I liked them at the beginning of these playoffs in a forechecking role. We need someone to score. Holy cow. There were lots of reasons why the Florida Panthers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, but at the end of the day, their depth scored. The Leafs did not. Also, their best players outplayed the Leafs' best players. But, also, it's the fourth line. You can figure out the fourth line. So what are the most important holes? Top line right wing, second line left wing, although you could put Bobby McMahon there if you really wanted, and second line center. Let's say John Tavares signs for 6. Let's just say 6. Okay. You still have $12.2 million to basically fill out 2 winger spots. You could go and get a $6 million right winger and a $6 million left winger. You could even go out and get Brad Marchand. I don't think Brad Marchand's signing here. Oh boy. I don't know how any of us would handle that, actually. But here's the thing with Brad Marchand. Number one, he wins wherever he goes. But also, this dude has never cashed in on how good he is. He's signed sweetheart deals all throughout his career, and I think it just worked out that way. I don't think it was out of the goodness of his heart. I think he would like a payday. So the way I see it, you basically have $6 million, roughly, for 3 different slots. First line right wing, or that's William Nylander's role now. Maybe it's second line right wing. You know what? Maybe that makes it easier. Let's make a line out of just new guys. Knies, Matthews, Nylander. Done. Second line, left wing, center, right wing. They all make $6 million across the board. Very likely, to me, John Tavares is one of those guys. Do you go Jamie Benn? Do you go Chris Kreider if you're able to get him? Do you go Nikolai Ehlers? Is a very interesting player to me. Does Max Domi move to wing and you go out and you get 2 centers? I don't think Scott Laughton plays wing. I would like to see Scott Laughton become a full-time center on this team. You did not give up that much to get a depth winger. Or, Steve, how do we get ourselves a little bit more money to play with? Well, David Kampf makes $2.4 million. He does have modified trade protection. Yes, actually. But I think you can move him. Calle Yarncroke, $2.1 million. Yes, he actually does have modified no trade protection. But I think you can move him. Max Domi, $3.75 million. He does have modified trade protection. I don't think you trade that player. And I'm surprised I'm saying that given how I talked about him sometimes during the winter. Frustrating player at times, takes frustrating penalties, terrible defensively a lot of the time, and you have to shelter him. During the playoffs, the guy's a gamer. The guy elevates. He just does. And you're stuck wrestling between the guy who shows up in the playoffs and the guy who doesn't score until Christmas most regular seasons. I think you can free up some space by trading Kampf, and I don't think it'll be a lot. I do think you can free up some space by trading Yarncroke. I don't think it'll be a lot. Remember, Easton Cowan could fill one of these slots. Maybe someone else in the minors. Who knows? I think you keep Domi. Robertson could be a trade asset. And I think the big wild card here is Morgan Riley. $7.5 million per, full no move. If he says, I don't want to go, well, that's the end of that conversation for now. People change their mind, but like, I don't know. I don't want to be traded. And also, I signed this with the goal of not being traded. I don't know. What are you supposed to do? Leafs gave one of those to Mitch Marner. He didn't want to get traded, and, well, you're not able to trade him, are you? Imagine you were able to go Morgan Riley as a principal part of a package to the Calgary Flames for Nazem Kadri. Get him back on the team. Wouldn't that be nuts? It's a fun dream. It's a silly dream, and there are a lot of missing components to that dream, but it's a somewhat realistic one. Unless Morgan Riley completely does not want to be traded, and then, well, nothing to dream about, is there? It is literally just a dream. So look, Leafs Nation, I'll leave you with this thought. We're heading into a new era. We are. We're all disappointed. We are. But I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff to look forward to during this offseason. Like, I threw out some outlandish stuff. I didn't even get all that creative. You just got Carlo. Great. What if you flip him? You just got Lawton. Great. What if you flip him? What if you flip anybody? You trade Matthew Nyes. No, I would actually be very upset about that. You have 6D locked up. Are you going to bring all those guys back? You have 2 goalies locked up. Are you going to bring both those guys back? The core 4 is currently the core 3. It could be as low as the core 2. And geez, if they bring John Tavares back at half the salary, I don't think you can call it the core 3. I think at that point, he's just John. There is a lot of potential for this offseason, and I want to know, what do you think? What idea that I threw out there do you like the most? What idea that I throw out there that you hate a lot? What isn't anybody talking about? And what is everyone talking about too much? Let me know in the comment box down below, but for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends, hey, look at that. We're at almost 250,000 subscribers. This silly little YouTube channel, that's ridiculous.